department chair and as a dean leader, okay? And then we will have other follow-up conversations about what this would look like to deploy it, how it's gonna look like, the support you're gonna receive, and so forth. Is that fair? Everybody understand that part? Make the product the very best product for you, and then the rest of it, we will take care of that, okay? So I'm gonna be here until 4 o'clock. I have to drive to Marble Falls to award a scholarship to a student, so I won't be able to hear everything, but, are we recording this?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I will watch and, and y'all got my cell phone, text me, whatever. Okay, thank you.
Jeff, do you like to introduce the company or go straight for it?
Okay, welcome and thanks for the invite, Dr. Clunis and crew. We're Biometric Signature ID. We're a 17-year-old company. We've been associated with CTCD for 13 years as a partner. We have a number of things because CTC is one of our favorite colleges.
Yeah, can y'all use the microphone?
Sure.
Yeah. Whichever one.
Unhook it.
Pretty high tech.
Okay,
I'm not sure.
Turn it on.
that's better.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
User error, sorry about that. I'm not going to give you a repeat, but Central Texas College has been associated with us as a partner in fraud protection and cheating eradication for, I guess, about 13 years now. We're kind of special with Central Texas College because we have little things like a long-term endowed scholarship for students and a couple of other things that aren't privy to today's conversation. But we're here today to just talk about some of the changes that we heard in the March 24th meeting. And Ron Kirkenar is our chief lead on this development. And we're here to help you guys, and we appreciate any input that you might have. So Ron, take it away. Thanks.
Thank you. I think this microphone is it on too. Good afternoon, everybody. Dim the lights so that the view is easier. My coworkers at home logged into Blackboard. We heard your concerns and we hope we address them all. The primary one was for the blurred video that one of the math teachers brought up, that on the blurred video, they're unable to distinguish between a Casio calculator and a Texas Instrument one. Wasn't aware that was a concern, but we immediately took notice and we started developing a version that caters to all your needs and desires. Everything that was raised up during the meeting, we believe we have found a solution for, but we didn't stop there. We're still actively developing, and I'll bring up the features that aren't going to be demonstrated in a moment. Rachel, if you can scroll down. The way I've split it up, because those who have edited a course already know that the proctoring options that we offer are 2 options. It's the BioSig proctoring and the BioSite proctoring. That will expand to 6 options. It's going to still be the BioSig proctoring and the BioSite proctoring. There's going to be the unblurred version that we call BioSite Plus for the time being, work in progress, but probably a title that will stick. And then all those free options can also be activated with the Safe Exam Browser enforcement. It's an open source browser that will lock the user into their environment. They can't use multiple monitors, they can't use the clipboard, they can't use AI software, anything that we predefine. If you have a link to a calculator website in your maths department, as long as that link is in your course, it's automatically whitelisted. If you link to a Wikipedia article, then the student will be able to go to Wikipedia. And then of course the inherent risk of once they're on Wikipedia, they can do what they want. So be sure you know what you're linking to and narrow it down.
Should we do questions throughout or at the end?
Allow me to get through this first, and then I'll open the floor for any questions.
All right, down.
Can you get a little closer to the mic there? Sure. Sorry.
Thank you.
Like I said, I'll take constructive criticism and I'll apply it. So the way I demonstrated, Rachel, if you can click on the regular browser proctoring options. So these are all the options already pre-configured. We created a quick BioSig proctoring test, a BioSite proctoring test, and a BioSite Plus. And then if Rachel scrolls down for the same exam browser, for the user, it will look the same. But then because it has the keywords in it and it has configured proctoring settings for those options, the additional workflow changes kick in on our side to force the student to go through that process. Rachel cannot be in Teams inside the Save Exam browser, so she's going to use the regular. So just collapse the Save Exam browser one and then go into the BioSite Plus. Are you logged in as a student or?
I am logged in as a student.
Okay, perfect. So this would be the student experience. As you can see, we've been busy, so this is a 10:31. But yeah, go ahead, Rachel. This part is all the same. You might have gone through the student experience. This is the terms and conditions they have to agree to. They're going to then commence by starting it. So go ahead, Rachel.
And we're zoomed in quite a bit, so this window wouldn't normally be this large.
Yeah, normally it adapts, but to make it readable for everybody in the room, it's maximized zoomed in. It goes through the system test, and the moment she clicks on next, it'll make sure that she aligns herself within view of the camera. And once it has detected that she's there, she can proceed. And this is immediately where all the changes take place, because we now have what's called a wizard list, where each department can give me a defined list of questions that they want the student to perform. And if you go ahead, Rachel, so our first one was a calculator check, because that was brought up during the meeting. So I allow Rachel to use my Texas Instrument calculator. You can ask the student to twirl around or whatever you want them to do. We'll just have a title and a direction of what they have to do. Once they perform that, they click next. And there's no limit on the amount of checks you wish them to do. So in this case, one of the questions was, I want a room scan. So then in this case, the room scan is being requested. I'm not going to have Rachel pick up the heavy monitor and turn it around, but she'll just continue next. The other option that was brought up was, are the earbuds clear of any secret, listening devices to be on a phone call? And you can ask the student, show that your ears are clear. Once again, and this is all being recorded and it's going to be part of your BioSite video. And then continue, Rachel, go to the next part. This, I just typed in 4 header because it could be anything you want. There's no limit. We can have 20 steps. We can have 2 steps. It can be done per department, per course, however we're going to figure that out. And then finally, if Rachel continues, because in our demo, this is the last step. This is now where the pop-up becomes small, and then Rachel will authenticate herself with BioSig ID. For demo purposes, it's a very small course. It's just a single question, is the sky above you? To make the video last long, we're just gonna delay a little. This is actually a good time for me to take any questions while we wait for the recording. Go ahead.
Me?
Yes,
I have 3 right now.
by all means, fire away.
Okay, number 1, this task is inside Blackboard.
Correct.
Do you support third-party vendors?
I just had a meeting with the deans. We're working on a concept we call LTI Proxy, and it will support any third-party software. McGraw-Hill, Elsevier, MyLab, MathLab Plus, we're aware of all of them. They refuse to work with us because preferably we go inside the product, because like Blackboard, we're inside Blackboard, we're inside Canvas, we're inside hundreds of products, but Elsevier refuses to talk to me. McGraw-Hill says we have better things to do. So the LTI proxy, what it's going to do is Blackboard is going to launch our LTI proxy. We then know what you want to launch, be it McGraw-Hill or Elsevier. We launch that, and at that moment, we can initiate like the start of the recording on BioSite, because we know that's the start of the event. And when they're done, they're going to send the results and the grades to us. We can then stop the recording, because that's the missing piece that we otherwise don't know. And then we send everything back to Blackboard untouched so that you get the same results as you currently launch it. And that would at least allow us to then intercept or secure any third party. So we can force them to be inside the Safe Exam browser. We can force them to be recorded while they're going through the third party software. And yeah, that should solve everything. The only downside is that the third party is under no circumstances allowed to have the student go directly to elsevier.com and log in there. But any developing company should have that option by default. Everybody we talk to can turn that on as long as your account manager speaks to their customer representative.
So do you foresee that there are going to be some third-party vendors that are not going to work?
Unfortunately, we don't own them and we're not in control of them. But with your participation, we might be able to apply a little pressure and get them to agree to it.
Okay. You said that if the link is in the course, they can go to it during the test, like a calculator, like a decimal.
Correct.
That means we would tell you that it's available during the test.
No, you just edit your course, and if you say this link,
So if there are links that I don't want them to access, if you have links to resources that they can use for practice inside of a course, I don't want to whitelist everything inside of my course. I only want to whitelist certain things in my course that they can do. Is that
okay, yeah,
available?
the Save Exam Browser has all those options. By default, we normally control the applications for ADA compliance. We allow text-to-speech readers to be available and certain calculator apps. But because the zip file is complicated, it takes time to configure. I usually do that at school level or at department level, because I could technically do it at instructor level, but I work for my boss, I don't work for CTCD, and then my whole day would be spent talking to instructors setting that up. It's open source. You could technically create your own zip file, hand that to me, and I can trigger it in your course to be that's the one being used. And then there's every possibility you can configure that all the other lockdown environments provide. But we usually try to create a general one that works for everybody, and it's usually possible to find that out because we're doing that with existing clients, and yeah, it's a wide range and nobody has complained.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
Can you pronounce that again? Was it a step file that you were talking about the whitelisting in?
SEB, it's for Save Exam Browser, so it's called the set configuration. Sorry, my accent didn't
No,
come
you're
through.
good. We're good. So a step file.
Yeah.
I would pronounce.
And the beautiful thing is everybody that installs the Save Exam Browser installs it both as an end user and an administrator, but we encrypt our configuration file so that only the Central Texas one through our software is allowed. But you can play with it yourself too, and we can even give you the unencrypted file because there's nothing to protect. We just don't want students to hack the system, bypass the security.
So let's say that I'm very technically inclined and I want to do something for our department or even myself, that I can do that?
Yes.
And I can just set that up on my Blackboard course individually even?
Yes, so then instead of our system guiding the student through it, you modify the description and say, don't use the automated link, make sure you click on this one.
Yes.
You can also preload computers with that link. So when they start the computer and launch Save Exam Browser, that's the one already preloaded.
Yes.
Because we have clients in hybrid campus classes where on site, the computer and the environment are all prepared and they don't want the student to bother with installing because they don't have the access rights to it.
So thank you, that Safe Exam browser you must install, just like Chrome or Firefox.
Correct. It's actually the Chrome Blink engine, and that's a download and install. We normally pride ourselves that no download and install is required, but it requires physical access to the computer, so it had to be installed and downloaded.
But it requires an extension.
No, it's an actual application that is a browser in itself. It is based on the Chromium Blink engine, but Respondus uses that as well. Even Microsoft gave up and is using the Google Blink engine for their Edge browser.
So would that install be for Windows, Mac, Linux?
Yeah, so they offer a client for the Windows desktop system. They offer a client for the Mac OS desktop system and tablets, also an iPad OS version and an iPhone version. They don't offer a Chromebook version, but a competitor of them, which is called the Fully Kiosk browser, is fully Android and Chromebook compatible. We just haven't had a client who said that's what we want to use. But I just had a discussion with Dr. Clunas, and CTCD might opt for that option, and then every system in the world is supported.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. I'll just let Rachel end the Zoom call, the Biosite recording, so, yeah.
The test will be submitted now.
So now, this is the student part, but obviously you're interested in the instructor side because you'll be able to get access to that. What I can tell you is that we're hard at work to not only offer the options I talked about, we're gonna expand them. We're figuring you're dying to also have screen recording where you can watch what the student is doing on their computer. We're also gonna add AI transcription so that the audio communication is being transcribed so that we can look for keywords like give me the answer or what is that question, so that on a 2-hour quiz, you don't want to spend the time watching it all and listening to it all. So hopefully with the transcription, we can have AI monitor it and give you alerts where we say, this video contains keywords that are on the prohibited list, and you might want to jump to that point and then listen to confirm that, the AI did not make a mistake. AI is not foolproof, but, we're gonna hope for the best. So yeah, Rachel, the top one is you disable the filter. So yeah, view the top one. So that's the recording she just made. And as you can see at the bottom now, first of all, the recording is clear. We also figured, because it's a small thing, if you're really paying attention to what's shown, you can click on the little zoom icon in the top right corner of the video where you can see Rachel, and that will enlarge it. But if that's not big enough, then you can go back to the regular view, Rachel. At the bottom, there's a full screen icon.
Which I will have to zoom out a little bit to speed.
You might have to start playing first before it becomes available.
Yeah. Yeah.
So as you can see, the audio icon is available now. Rachel is not sharing her screen with audio active, so you don't hear it. But there's also a full screen icon. So then you can go the maximum resolution possible. So it's really easy for you to then watch for the TI calculator. If you can exit full screen mode, please, Rachel. The key thing is the wizard steps. We're not totally done with development yet, but this will all get fixed. It's hard to see, but at the bottom it has the number 1, 2, 3, 4. And that corresponds with the wizard steps. They're listed on the right side with a timestamp, and if Rachel clicks on any of those timestamps, it jumps directly to that part in the recording. So if you want to review just the calculators check or the earbud check, you can very quickly jump to that. We're also enhancing we're working on it now, enhancing the ability to jump to specific points. And the one big thing we still have to work for is that right now the heat map is freaking out because showing the calculator actually blocks your face, which is an infraction in our system. So we are going to fix it so that the wizard steps are like a separate process so that they don't impact the AI calculation on, the academic dishonesty during the quiz. But yeah, as far as I know, we solved audio, we solved clear images, and we solved the ability to have a student perform something that you wish to compare. We're also adding screen recording and the transcription. Did anybody have any other ideas we can implement? Go ahead.
You just said screen recording. So would that be here with the Biosite as usual?
Yes.
Would there be a third screen essentially?
We're gonna figure out how to show it. It's probably gonna be a toggle between the heat map and then side by side. We built our own version right now, but the Safe Exam browser has a full-blown screen recording solution with a server, and they've done all the hard work. It's a team of 10,000 developers. We can't compete with that, so they've done all the work. So we might end up using their version, but at the same time, if you have a requirement that instead of asking them, please add this, if it's in our control, we can modify it much quicker. So for right now, we're gonna do it ourselves and try our best. But if we run into issues that Safe Exam browser has solved already, I'm not gonna try to reinvent the wheel, and we'll just switch over and then use their solution.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
So currently, new screen does not record, correct? Yeah, that's what
It works, but it's in our beta version, and I didn't want to risk the chance that this did not work. Rachel can actually scroll down. My coworker has a video, but it's I don't want to share that, it's
Okay,
too,
okay. And then, is there any, interruption to correct bad behavior?
so we have for another client who has a live proctoring solution where they have live proctoring. If Rachel switches back to the top, there's a tab we call live proctoring. There's an unlimited amount of active screen recordings you can see at the same time. So in a situation where one person has to monitor an entire class in sync, that is all at the same time taking their test, not like one at 2 a.m., the other one at 1 p.m. We have this option for the client that they can watch all the recordings that are active live. We actually on production, I can't show that because we'd be breaking a lot of laws, but I can see sometimes 7 CTCD students, they happen to be taking the biosite test at the same time. You could see that. And then we're going to expand that with the option that you can chat with the user and say, why did you just put that pencil on the right side down? Or why did you grab that calculator? You would be able to interact, but that would require you being there in real time as the student is taking their course. And in your situation with all the different time zones, you don't want to be awake 24 hours. You don't have the staff, neither do we, to sit there 24 hours. But you could schedule your test and say, like, if everybody attends on this day at this hour, I'm available for 3 hours. Everybody can take the test and I'll be there to watch. And then you could take 3 hours out of your day and you'd be able to be on your dashboard, look at all those students joining your class and taking the quiz, and then you can interrupt and pause them and communicate with them. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Thank you. Any more? Oh, I see some in the back there.
Yeah, so with our online classes and with the live proctoring, what's the bandwidth to look like if we're trying to monitor 30 students on their video?
We're on the Microsoft Azure network. We have not ran into the limit and we ran 10,000 simultaneous users.
I
So
was thinking about on the teacher's end, I live in Batesville, and I have T-Mobile cellular internet, so is it gonna be able to handle that?
initially we were able where you could watch like 12 students at the same time because they were highly reduced images. Now with this clear version, we've stepped it up to full-blown 30 frames per second video. I don't know, like, can you be on a Zoom call with 30 people on your current connection? It would,
Usually they got the cameras turned on because of that.
yeah, so then that's still gonna be a problem. So at least with our software, you can then pause a bunch of people and focus on the one and just watch them one at a time. And our recommendation has always been that you don't watch the student in real time. You pick the time that you're best, also on the fastest connection. Nobody's in the house watching Netflix movies. And then you can quickly go through all those students, allow the AI to filter your class of 100 students down to 10 that are suspicious. And instead of sitting down for 2 hours on the test watching 20 hours worth of video, filter the AI on the marks and then just zoom in. And then we're hoping that your time is reduced down to half an hour to 45 minutes, where you can have a whole class of 100 students verified, and then you move on to grading their papers and, you know, answering their questions. Go ahead.
You've mentioned a couple of times that there are things you are working on that you're going to be finishing. Do you have an idea when the final finished product will be available?
So my boss always asks the same question, and unfortunately with technology, we've done stuff where we said it's gonna take a week, and then an hour later I call him and say it's done because we did not run into any roadblocks. And the opposite always happens, where I say it's gonna take an hour, and then 2 weeks later, we're still unraveling a rabbit hole that we fell into. I don't have a crystal ball, and if I had one, it would probably be broken or in the IT department. I can't tell you. We're doing the best we can. We assume that all the bugs we found will be solved within the next 2 weeks. And the LTI proxy, for example, will have done by the middle to the end of May. I heard from somebody that June 2nd was the start of the summer, and we're hoping to be ready for that. And the moment we're ready, so the same exam browser integration I could activate already, but instead of piecemealing everything that we finish and activating it, I prefer to spend like 2 more weeks to finish this and then give you all 6 options to activate. As it stands, you as the instructor are in full control to add to your courses. Once it's added, it and you copy that course, everything stays active and stays the same. But we are working on an easy way where with one button, you can, for example, automatically activate proctoring on every item that is worth more than 10 points, for example. So instead of having to go into each quiz and each item and turn on proctoring, you just click on one button. Yeah, I have a large list of stuff I got to work on, but we're a small team, so you have to be patient with us.
So, none of this involves AI monitoring at any level.
AI is used, but for the wizard step, for example, we haven't figured out how to use AI yet because we can't differentiate between a calculator from one brand and the other yet. But we'll see how far the technology brings us. We have our own dedicated AI server we're working on. We're working with NVIDIA to get access to their latest technology. Microsoft is also very deeply involved. We're a Microsoft Silver partner. So we have the access to the latest, but in a lot of cases, the product does not work on our servers. It works on the end user's computer, like the student is doing the AI calculations. That's why the requirement is that they have a beefy video card during the system test, because it needs to be at least a video card in the last 15 years for BioSight to work. We try to keep our system requirements as low as possible because we're having clients with students in a limited financial position where a very cheap Chromebook has to work. So we're trying to make sure, that it works on slow internet connections and on slow computers. But as we keep adding more advanced features for you, the requirements will eventually have to go up because we're putting too much stress on the server or on the client's computer. And then we are considering moving the processing to our servers from Microsoft. It's just extremely expensive. And it also means that you don't have a real-time view anymore because the Microsoft servers have to do the calculations after the fact. And right now, everything is in real time. Go ahead.
I just want to make sure I'm literally like the least inclined technical person, so I want to make sure I'm very clear on whether I can use this in my department. So third-party vendors, one more time, if we use my math lab,
Yes.
we can do it.
Not right now, but I'll have that done before June 2nd.
And website, and Newton Volta.
Any third party that uses an LTI token and secret that can be launched from within Blackboard with one of those SSO links.
So does it have to, but it doesn't have to live in Blackboard.
No, you can have the test and assessment in any website, as long as the student cannot go outside of Blackboard, because then they'll bypass our ability to understand that they're going into that system.
And so it just has to be linked within Blackboard.
Correct, and then that link will get replaced by our link with the knowledge of the link you planned on going to. Our interaction is seamlessly in the background. It just allows us to keep track of what's going on so we can start recording, stop recording, and do all the fancy stuff.
June 2nd, will the recording on the screen also be ready?
Fingers crossed. I'm hoping to have that done actually by the end of this week.
And then the whitelisting of links, you said I can go in there and whitelist some and not whitelist others.
Yeah, we might have to have a little separate meeting then with the departments that, because my plan was to make sure we're ready for all of Central Texas by the fall in August, but hopefully have a few instructors who are technically capable or very willing, and I'll work with them, where we can figure out the basis, what works for everybody. Because biology doesn't care if the whitelist to a calculator website. So then instead of making a separate file for the math department, I could just make that part of the generic whitelist and blacklist, as long as it doesn't interfere with the biology or the chemistry department or psychology for that matter.
So like, if, for example, if they go into lessons in Blackboard, there's an OER textbook link, but I don't allow them to use the textbook on their test. But if the link lives in Blackboard, you can turn that off during the exam.
I have the capabilities, I just have to, like, if you want to allow it in a regular, because they only have the requirements to be in the same exam browser when you tell them to be. So if they're not, if that link is blacklisted and they go in their regular browser, they can go to that link. But when the test starts, then the link is blacklisted. And yes, that configuration option is possible. Go ahead.
But if I'm understanding this correctly, the default is everything in Blackboard's links, correct? So we have to change the file to blacklist.
Yes, I would have to change it where I can say everything is blacklisted except for the links that you guys give me. But then every department has to come forward with all the links and all the materials. So I can make one set file with all the whitelisted stuff, and then by default, everything is blacklisted.
And that's only during the exam.
Yeah, but keep in mind that once they start the test, they should technically not be capable of going back to the mainstream because they're in the test. It's the test that's secure. So if on question number 1 in the test you add a link, that is whitelisted, but they can't, the moment they exit the test, the proctoring stops and then they can't, use it anymore. And the moment they exit the test, then the recording stops, and when they come back, it becomes attempt number 2. And in Blackboard, you can say only 1 attempt is allowed, or you could see multiple attempts were taken place.
And then just for clarification, right, as of right now, you do not correct incorrect behavior. In order to do that, I would have to proctor my own exam during a certain time with all of my students to be able to watch them simultaneously.
Well, that's an option you have. Right now, we take the monitor and observe approach, meaning that we allow the cheating to continue because you can see it after the fact and take action, because we're not Fort Knox. Once they got in, they can't steal the gold. They have to wait until after the 8 or 10 week course. So there's time for you to take corrective action. So by default, we take monitor and observe, but we are adding options where you can take corrective action, saying the moment 2 infractions are detected, log them out of Blackboard. The only problem is the reason why I'm forced to show 6 options instead of 1 with a configuration option. Blackboard doesn't allow me currently to have additional sub-features within the proctoring. And I don't want to, because the moment every feature I add is n to the power. So the next feature I have 16 options in the menu, then I have 32, 64, and it just becomes unmanageable. So I'm working with Blackboard, because we're a full quality partner, to optimize that. 6 is now my limit. I'm okay with that, but any other features, I'm waiting for Blackboard. Unfortunately, with some features, they tell me next week we're done, and I've also have a feature open for 6 years where I still haven't gotten an answer. So it's.
So let me give you an example. I just proctored an exam with another proctoring service, and the student had their head down most of the time because they're working on their math, they're doing scratch paper. So the majority of the test, I'm looking at the top of their head. There was a pop-in that said, hey, adjust your camera because we can't see you. And so the student was able to adjust their camera and it was fine for the rest of the time. So nothing like that would happen. I would just see the top of their head the entire time.
Well, when we're adding the feature for you to take, progressive action, when they have their face down, our system alerts them with the red eye that their face is not detected because there's no human characteristics on the top of their head. So our system currently shows them the red eye and tells them, they're looking down, so they might not see it. But we can add audio visual that we can, ping, ping, look at the screen because something was wrong.
Yeah.
And we could expand that, saying that, we can then say messages like, your face was not visible for longer than 30 seconds, for example. You need to correct that, put your camera in front of you and aim it upwards so I can see your facial expression.
That's good, but you don't have that right now.
Not right now, but when we do the punitive modifications, which it all depends how quickly I get everything else done, but that is on our list. I just can't make any promises. I'm going to do the best I can. We have a well-deserved team of fine professionals, but we're a small team and we have a large list of requirements. But yeah, Central Texas is at the top of our list right now.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
To piggyback off of her question in her particular scenario, so if just the top of the head was visible with the beat, so there could be some audio effects from your end where you alert the student that they are really outside of the field of view, that you cannot see the face at times.
Yes.
But if the student does not oblige or disregards the audio effects, then the rest of the recording would look like you just see the top of the head.
Yeah, but that's where the punitive action comes into place. If you tell us after the second warning, end Blackboard and lock them out, then the student has no choice and they have no excuse because you can rewatch the video, see that they were giving warning number 1, see that they were giving warning number 2. The audio you'll be able to hear on the recording that their speaker was recorded by their microphone. And you can tell them you were told twice and on the third time it's third strike and you're out. And then, because we love the baseball analogy, so third strike, we usually take the action. So that's what we usually code by default, but we make it configurable. If you want 5 warnings, will allow you to have 5 warnings.
Is that optional?
Not right now, but that will be once we add the punitive options.
Can I interrupt here really quickly? I'm gonna have to leave, and I'm glad I'll be able to stay for this dialogue. We plan on meeting at least bi-weekly with, Ron and his team to get continuous updates on where they are. We're aware, especially the sense of urgency around PAM department with the tools that you need. And they are working really, really hard to try to have these things ready. You're hearing futuristic language that we've been talking about it, and even since I met with them, they've met additional things and have shared that. If for some reason they are not able to meet that, we will know in enough time before classes start, and we will have to, figure out if we have to extend the current options that are in place. But the goal is that these things will be ready, but we are really focused on partnership with them, that if they can't, they're being transparent to tell us where they are, but they are really trying to dig in to make sure that you can get what you need. But we're not asking everyone to activate this in the summer, but we do know that I've heard directly that the math department, being the largest user in the current situation with the other vendor, that you need this probably more than other people. So I just want you to hear me that I understand that some of the features that he's putting in place are not done, and we're tracking timeline for completion. If for some reason they can't meet it, we'll address that at that time, but they understand that the goal is to get this ready for you to deploy for summer when your current option is expired.
I want to give you kudos because obviously you heard what we said like a month ago and you already fixed.
Yeah, I want to bring that up, that BioSite originally took us 8 months to develop.
Yeah.
And since March 24th, we made a complete new version from scratch that takes care of all your needs. But that's because we had the experience and we were able to copy 60% and just add a little fix update.
Yeah, so I give you kudos on that, but number two, from what you're telling me now, there's no way, like, we can test it in the summer if you can't do third-party vendors, because that's all our tests are. You know what I mean, like that kind of stuff, like logistically, like I would love to pilot it, but if you can't do third-party vendors and you can't record the screen, and you can't, like that kind of stuff, like, I just don't understand, I just don't know.
But he understands.
Yeah, okay, I'm letting you know, I know what you're trying to do.
You met with him, and he understands the date your dean told him when you would have to have it deployed. If they do not have it deployed by then, we understand that, we will address that. But it would be to just give them more time in the summer to be able to activate on it. But the goal is, they're definitely going to try to meet that requirement. And then we will have to address the fact that we will have to do some type of extensions with your current vendor through the summer, but understanding that the goal is ultimately those alternatives that are being used will be sunset. And I'm very aware of the timeline, so keep bringing that forward, as we go through it. And some of you are looking shocked about the fact of sunsetting other vendors, so let me explain to you why that is the case. Ultimately, we have to have a tool to deal with not just your need for academic integrity tools, but we also have to stop the fraud that's happening on the front end of admissions to the college. And the only vendor that can provide us with front end protection, as well as give us academic integrity protection while they're in the class, is this company, okay? And so we currently have a contract with them. In the handout you had, I don't know if you had it yet, if you'll look on your handout, there's a product called BioProof. And the BioProof tool will allow the student affairs enrollment management team to stop the fraud that's happening from financial aid, okay? So last summer, during our peak enrollment time, we had almost $500,000 of fraudulent financial aid that was awarded. And the enrollment management team is having to manually try to stop the financial aid fraud. As much as 10,000, we need to get more confirmation, but there's a concern as many as 10,000 fraudulent applications have been manually managed by enrollment management. And it's not sustainable. So we are trying to figure out a product that will get us that protection before the government comes and investigates us. We're going to start to see it on the news that they're cracking down on that fraud. We haven't been asked to pay back any money or been penalized, but if we have another summer of $500,000 of fraud, okay, on financial aid, that could possibly happen. But we also need to make sure we have a tool that covers not just the proctoring, but also contract cheating, which the current vendor that people are enjoying with the proctoring and they're doing a lot of proctoring, that product cannot do. So this is the reason why ultimately we're asking you to help us to try to stick with this vendor, and they are trying to demonstrate their commitment as a partner to get us there. And I know it's not perfect, and I'm not saying tomorrow you're gonna have to abandon everything, but we do need to try, and you're the only people that can help get the product to where you need it to be, okay? So that we can have academic integrity tools in place for you and protect the college on the front end from the fraud that's happening, okay? So I just want to provide that context so you can understand kind of the why we're here, because the last conversation was, I was going all in on Honor Lock with you until this issue about the fraud really came to light, more data came, and so that's where we are. But again, I'm hearing you as much as you are, and hackers, they're still working on some things, and if they can't deliver on their timeline, you will not be left without what you need.
I appreciate the transparency.
I appreciate it.
And how is your time schedule? Because I can bother you every week till now and June 2nd to make sure that
I'll give you a person's name to bother.
Okay. I'll give you my business card. We can do one-on-one Teams call and meeting. I need your support to make sure we're taking the right path, because the moment I take a wrong path, 2 weeks could be wasted, and I want to make sure I make my deadlines.
I can do that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And you have experience with Honor, you might have experience with other products. Yeah, give me feedback saying, I really love this feature that they offered. I really love the way they do it. Not everything might be capable. Something might take like a whole year, for example. I'll just put them on my to-do list and we'll get to them as we get.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
The one, options like when they get kicked out, like whether it's the third time or the fifth time.
Correct.
Is that something that the instructor can?
That's what I'm working on,
Or
because
department.
Blackboard is tying my hands in the configuration option I can give you. All they give me is a drop-down box, and you have to select the primary option. I know that Respondus, for example, or Honor, they allow you to configure Blackboard and then go into their system to configure a whole bunch of other things. We might end up with a solution like that, but I don't want to make your life more complicated. If you're in Blackboard, you should be able to do everything in Blackboard, even if it concerns us as a configuration. So I'm pushing Blackboard to give me those options. And yeah, we'll see where it gets. No matter what, I'll figure out a solution. Somebody in the back?
I had two questions. One, you're talking about another file that we have to pay for the whitelisting and blacklisting. Is there any?
No, it's just like an email. Like if every department sends me the email and saying, these are the ones we want whitelisted and blacklist everything else, I just create one set configuration file for all of Central Texas that all the students use.
But some of our classes may be different. What I was gonna ask is there any plan to try and move any of that into the system where we can go into Blackboard and like have a field we can fill out and say, this website whitelist and everything else?
Yeah, so that's my dream, but that depends on Blackboard moving. And when I was directly dealing with Blackboard, they had 7 developers and they were down to 2. Then Anthology bought them. Now they have 50 developers and they actually work slower than the 2 that they had before. So they're a big company and we're just very low on the totem pole. We pay them a ton of money, but they just ignore us most of the time. But once I can prove that they're doing something wrong, they tend to sometimes work a little faster, especially when I tell them Canvas has already done it for me and they get a little mad. So I know how to play them. I just can only do as much as they're willing to let me do.
The other question I had is with, when they detect something odd, like a student looking down constantly, can the system require, or can we have an option to require that they took the camera down and show us their work?
Yeah, because we show a warning message and that's going to be configurable. Everything in our system is configurable. So If you want them to take their camera, put it down and have it facing to them or shining down on the paper or book that they're reading, that would all be possible.
So we could basically say, hey, I need you to pick up your camera, take your face out of the field of view and scan your work environment.
Correct. Like the wizard step in the beginning, we're gonna make an option that you can prompt them to go through a new wizard list of saying, do a new room scan because maybe somebody entered after the fact, or show us everything that's on your table right now. And we're also gonna possibly make the option that that happens randomly. Like suddenly, now you have 30 seconds to show that your table is clear. And then in their sheer panic, they might not have the time to hide all their evidence. So we're already thinking of that. It's difficult to get into the mind of the cheating students, but we've got decades of experience, and with your help, we can, make the perfect product. Go ahead.
I had a student through a different proctoring program where someone took remote access of his computer. He was kind of faking it like he was typing, but.
So the Safe Exam Browser stops that dead in its track because Zoom, Teams, MyPC Remote, TeamViewer, they're all on the standard block list. So AI software is also on the block list, so they can't have Copilot running in the background and ask it, hey Siri, what is the question and answer to this? All of that is automatically blocked. But it is a cat and mouse game because there's going to be 10 new AI companies tomorrow, and I have to keep updating the configuration file to add the new software. But we are involved in what's called the dark web, so we know the discussions that the cheaters have, and then we copy that information and block it before they have a chance to use it sometimes. New question, go ahead.
I have a question. If the student goes into the Safe Exam Browser and opens up multiple windows before they take the test,
That they're not able to open a window because the new tab is disabled. It's a fully secured environment where they can only do what you let them to do.
so if they open that browser up, they can only have one window.
Yeah, it's one window. We did have to make sure that the BioSites works because it opens in a new tab. But because we launched it, we were able to make that work. So anything that's, like I said, it's within Blackboard that's configured is allowed. But the student can't they can't open a new tab and go to Google. That's totally disallowed.
And if they open this up and try to pull up another window from the browser.
That they can't because all their monitors, I have 7 monitors at home, they all go black, only my primary monitor is available, and I can't do Control-Shift-Escape to bring up a task manager, I can't Alt-Tab, I can't do print screen from my printer, everything is disabled. Sorry, what was that?
You can't click on any of the other items.
No, the whole, you're in a locked, Windows offers the option to create a virtual screen, so you can have another Windows environment that's disconnected from yours. And that's what the Safe Exam Browser does. It creates a random desktop without a Windows toolbar, without Windows controls, and it loads the browser into that. And I do sometimes run into like military students where their computer is so locked down that they can't do it. But we have one-on-one support calls with them, and we tell them like, go to a Starbucks, go to a library. Unfortunately, your NOC doesn't allow it. There was one student of yours in Hawaii who ran into a Blackboard Nouns issue, and we traced it down that their Melio VPN security software that the military base uses, it blocks Blackboard from working. So we took 4 hours of multiple days and tried to diagnose it. We gave Blackboard all the information, and they simply said, yeah, we're not going to fix that. So it is their fault. They need to fix it, but they simply said, yeah, we're not going to fix that. And then we talked to the military side saying, can you please add a whitelist option for Blackboard and verifyexpress.com, which is the domain that we run on. And they say, unless that call comes from the White House, we're not going to talk to you. So unfortunately, my hands were tied. The student went to a Starbucks, did their exam just fine, and everything was solved. But those are sometimes the issues we run into. We also had a user who was stuck in BioSite, and it turns out they had a virus. And I ended up spending 2 hours with them to clear their computer. But I was happy to be bored between 2 meetings and waiting. So, that's a service we provide for your students. Oh, one more question?
Is BioProof a new product or?
No,
we
we
have
have,
it here for some time?
Sorry, I interrupted you, go ahead.
Have we had BioProof here for some time?
No, you've never had BioProof. We have, for example, a nurses school in Florida who uses it. They use Canvas, and that's been our normal usage, is that BioSig biometrically identifies that it's whoever created the profile on a 10-week course is that same student. But we know from the dark web that people in Pakistan and Kenya will pretend to be you for the entire 10 weeks. They'll take from day 1 to the last day. And if that's a real person, they can trick BioSig because they're the authenticated user biometrically identifying themselves. But if you're James and that's Mohammed over in Kenya, then our system will do the government ID, and then suddenly whoever created that profile can only be James because James is in the system, James is on his ID, the selfie on the ID matches James and all the other information matches, and James has then created the BioSig ID profile. If he wants Mohammed over in Pakistan to take the test for him, then suddenly he has to share the BioSig ID, and then it's, I'm not saying it's impossible, but we detect that. We've identified identical twins, husband and wife teams, and massive fraud rings, and that's what our product is good at.
So is it required so that we have BioSig, BioSight to have BioProof, or is that a standalone?
No, it's not standalone. BioSig is our primary product for everything. Everything starts with BioSig. Everything else is a feature that we can turn on and off. And what we're gonna do is with the FSA department, during the academic enrollment of applying to become a student here, to filter out all the fraud. That's the best point to put BioProof. And then once we have a person verified, and as long as they approve and the lawyers set up the requirement, we can store that selfie indefinitely on our system, and we can do what's called a selfie-to-selfie check, which is much cheaper and doesn't require the ID and the verification anymore, because that has already taken place. And that allows us to capture the events where a student simply does a BioSig reset, but then has the other person sitting next to them and be taking over. We catch that because that's how we catch husband and wife teams, because the husband, while the wife was going not to Cancun, like where Robert is right now, but they went on vacation, the husband took the test for the 2 weeks, but our system, every time you successfully validate on a new day, we gain more biometric data. And in the 2 weeks that the husband was validating, we had honed in on his biometric profile, and suddenly when the wife returns, she couldn't do her own courses anymore. So then they had to do a reset, and that was because very suspicious for our system when you had a reset to get into the course, and then suddenly a reset to get back into the course. So it got flagged, then the academic results were monitored, and they saw a big difference between the results, before they went on vacation and after, and they admitted it because, the evidence was irrefutable. So that's purely BioSig ID, and then BioProof would take that to a whole new level, and then BioSight with the recording adds another dimension to it. Did I answer everybody's question already? And yeah, thank you so much for the constructive criticism on the March meeting, because had you not told us, we would have been in the dark and thought that our product was just perfect, but no product is ever perfect. And with your help, we hope to get as close as possible and make you all happy. I'm sure some are going to be disappointed. We can't make the coffee in the morning for you or do your laundry, but we'll do the best we can. Thank you all for attending.